So if you're pulled over in a traffic stop,
Do you have to identify yourself?
if you are the driver, yes, you have to. And you have to produce physical identification. You've got to show your driver's license. If you're the passenger, you do not have to show your driver's license. If you're the passenger, you do not have to identify yourself unless the officer has reasonable suspicion that you have committed, are committing, or are imminently about to commit a crime. And that has nothing to do with the actual traffic stop.
Have you got an ID with you?
No, sir.
You don't have one?
I don't. I've lost mine.
Okay. You got anything with your name on it, sir?
Okay.
Have I committed a crime?
I'm sorry?
Have I committed a crime?
No, sir. I just need to know who you are.
If the officer looks and sees that you are currently, injecting yourself with an illegal substance, he might have reasonable suspicion at that point that you've committed a crime. But if you're just sitting there and you have your seatbelt on, the officer 99.9% of the time does not have reasonable suspicion. So what do you do if the officer is asking you or ordering you to identify yourself? So step one, ask the officer to clarify whether what he's asking is a request or a command. Officers often like to be vague about this, but if you ask them, remember they're on camera too, they're going to clarify whether this is a request or command, and that forces them into one track or the other. If it is a request, then you can politely and calmly decline the request. If it is a command, you can state whether or not you're going to comply based on whether you think it's legal or not legal. But just remember, if you are wrong, you will properly be charged with obstruction. And if you are right, you might still be charged with obstruction and you still might spend the night in jail. So be careful. Once they've said it is command, then you've got a choice to make whether you comply or not. If it is a lawful command, you should absolutely comply. So what is a lawful command? If they have reasonable suspicion that you have committed a crime, are committing a crime, or about to commit a crime, they have the right to require you to identify yourself. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean you have to produce physical identification? The answer is no. And the attorneys and the officers inside the policymakers inside of Metro would agree that is, you do not have to show a physical ID. Do you have to provide more than your name? I think the U.S. Supreme Court is very clear, and the Nevada Supreme Court is very clear that you do not have to provide more than your name. However, Metro is going to require you to go beyond what the U.S. Supreme Court has interpreted our statute to mean. And they're going to require you to provide a birth date, an address, or something so they can look you up in their database. But still, that same methodology applies at each level. When the officer tells you to do something, ask, is this a request or is this a command? If it is a request, then he has signaled to you that you are free to decline. If it is a command, he has signaled to you that he is very possibly going to take enforcement action against you if you decline or if you resist the command. And whether or not you're right or whether you're wrong, you still very possibly at that point are going to be facing obstruction charges and a night in jail if you resist what the officer perceives to be a lawful command. And then the question later on, and this is going to be a question for lawyers, which could get expensive, is, was it a lawful command or not? The basic advice is clarify whether it's a request or a command. And then if it is a request, make a choice of what you want to do. If it's a command, understand that the officer is going to enforce that. And if you resist the command, you better be right. And even if you're right, you're going to be spending the night in jail probably.
Remember, this is not legal advice because when you're in that situation, I'm not there to actually see exactly what's going on. And so, I can't apply it to your situation. This is just general information.